In this lesson, we're going to create a different game, a matching pairs game, to help consolidate the learning of Spanish numbers 1 to 10. There's 4 things that we're going to need. First of all, we are going to search for a background or a backdrop. Then we're going to ensure that we've got the numbers from 1 to 10, and each of them needs to be a separate sprite. For the Spanish words from 1 to 10, they're all going to be contained within one sprite as different costumes. Then we're going to need a sprite that says play game. Let's choose a background. Going to pexels, pexels.com, and I'm going to search for something Mexican and enter. I do like this one, it suits the game that I'm thinking of, so I'm clicking on this background, then free download. You save it to your computer, USB or external hard drive, and please make sure that you do acknowledge where you sourced your background from. So I usually copy the name of the artist, and then I also right click on the URL copy, and then I always use Notepad. Make a note of what the background looks like, then Control V the URL address, and then also copy in the artist's name and where you got it from. So we're going to now create the game. You can go to scratch.mit.edu and use the web-based version, or like me, you can use the desktop version. What I've done is I have gone to File, Load from your computer, and I've brought through the game that we worked on earlier, and it was part 2 of the game, so I've brought it through. I have deleted Abby sprite. I've also deleted the sprite that was called Next, the sprite that was called Review, and I've deleted the plain sprite. Then I've gone through, and for the numbers I've changed them from red to green, and I've saved 2 numbers to show you how I made those changes. So clicking on number 6, make sure that you're in bitmap mode, and choosing the text. The color I used was 27. The saturation was 79, and the brightness was 73. Then clicking on T for text and creating the number, then clicking on the outside to enlarge the number. And I'm just making sure that it's approximately the same size as what I had previously. Then just set it aside, because now I'm going to erase the red colored number 6. Then just zoom out, select your green number 6, and make sure it's in a central position. And I'll show you one more time. We're changing the fill color to 27, saturation to 79, and brightness to 73. Then clicking on the text, going to create the number, click on the outside and enlarge the number until it's approximately the same size as the previous one. Then delete your red number, zoom out, select your green number and place it in the central position. So you'll need to do that for all numbers between 1 and 10. Then for the words in Spanish, they're going to be contained within one sprite. So for my game, it's sprite number 2, where uno begins. And we're going to have to move each of these into the uno sprite as a costume. So the way to do that is click on DOS, then under costumes, you drag this costume on top of uno until it shakes. And then just go through and do it for each of the numbers in Spanish words. So making sure you're picking it up from costumes and dragging it onto your sprite number 2. You'll see that it changes with the costumes. So let me just click back on this one, and you see that these are being brought through as costumes now. So if you continue, we're on to cuatro, making sure you grab it from costumes and place it on sprite number 2. Cinco, costume, and onto sprite number 2. Seis, costume, and onto sprite number 2. Siete, costume, and onto sprite number 2. Ocho, costume, and onto sprite number 2. Nueve, costume, and onto sprite number 2. And then last one, 10, onto sprite number 2. So then let's click on sprite number 2, and we've got all the costumes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then we can go through and delete these ones. They're now surplus. Now, because we have brought this through as a new game, please make sure you do File, Save, and you're giving it a different name. So I've actually called mine where's it gone? Spanish Pairs. I've actually called it that. So I'm just going to save again. And I just want to place this on uno. So these are all the sprites that we need for the game. Let's bring through the backdrop. So clicking on backdrops, and then let's delete as many as we can, and then hover over backdrops menu, upload backdrop, and we're bringing in the one that we chose from pixels.com. Then we can delete the previous backdrop. So we should only have one backdrop now. Now let's begin with the code for play the game. So let's click on play the game and clicking on code. Click on looks, and there's layers, so we say go to front layer, so let's just click on that and play the game. We need this colored differently, so let's go to costumes and recolor it. I'd like it a yellow color actually, so I'm going to go color 14. Then saturation 79 and brightness 100. That's the color I like. Then fill and color in. Now you'll notice that it's got some black around the background, but let's click on Show. The background's dark anyway, so it doesn't really matter. We're going to reduce the size down to 60 and then enter, and then we're going to place it, if we can grab it. Let's go back to codes and let's just take that off for now because it's a code when the sprite is clicked. So let's do show, and we want to drag it over to this side here. And that's going to be the button that they click on. So finishing off our code, so we've got go to front, and we actually want this to appear when the green flag is clicked. So change the hide. This is from the previous game, these codes. Change it to show. And just make sure that it does end up in the right hand side of your stage. So go to the coordinates. So I usually put that first. Then under when I receive, no, we don't need when I receive, just when this sprite is clicked. And we don't need switch the backdrop. We do need broadcast. So under events, broadcast. And we're going to make a new message. So under here, new message, play game. Remember, these have to be camel formatting. So capital letter for each new word with no space in between the words. Play game, and then hide. So that's all the code for that button there. Then let's go through and do the code for the numerals. So starting with number 1, size is going to be 50 and enter. When the green flag is clicked, hide, because we haven't started the game yet. And let me just move that code down. Then we want to make a variable, and that's going to be the scoring of the game. So we're making a new one, and it's called match pairs score, or you can simply just call it score. And okay, and we want hide match variable match. So hide variable match pairs score. And click on play game for a moment and hide it. And number 1, we would like it to appear. So the background is 1 layer, so we need to say go to the front, and it's started by when I receive play the game. When I receive play game, go to the front. And let's just show number 1, and we want it about there. So then we want the motion go to those coordinates. And then we want show. Let's just get rid of that old code. Then a code like if someone chooses this number and they click on it, we need a code for that. So under events, when this sprite is clicked, and then we need a control. It has to be if then else, if then else. And let me just explain the game. So what I'm thinking of is I want the words for the Spanish numbers to one by one randomly appear in this globe. And I'm going to have the numbers 1 to 10 down the bottom here. So 1 to 5 in this row and 6 to 10 down in this row. Then when this Spanish word appears, the person playing the game has to then decide, so which number does that pair with? And so this is why we need some codes on these numbers here. So when this sprite is clicked, then, so under if then else, we need to go to operator and we need to have something equals. And because this is number 1, we need to put number 1 in here. Then under sensing, we need something of something. So here's here, something of something. So bring that in there. And this has to be costume number. So as you can see, we don't have costume number in the drop down. These come from our variables. So if we choose variables and then make a new variable called costume number, and then OK. So now we can choose costume number under here. Up here we don't need it appearing, so under variables we just take the tick out. And then under here we want it to relate if the costume 1 under this sprite, if it's costume 1, then it equals 1. So let's have a look. If it's costume 1 of this sprite, then they're going to be correct. If uno comes up here and they click this, then it's going to be correct. So let's go back to this one and the code. So if they've chosen that correctly, then we're going to say correct. And that's for 1 second. Then we just do a little bit of a wait time. After that, 0.2. And then we've got to do a change for the score. So we go to variables and this is going to be change the match pairs score by 1. Then we've got to do a broadcast, so back under events, broadcast, and we're going to make a new one to say, now switch the costume. So they've got uno correct, now switch the costume. So broadcast switch costume. If it's not correct, so under here, otherwise or else, and we're going to say, sorry, try again. That's for 2 seconds. And then the last one is under controls, or wait. And this is going to be 120 seconds, just so that they can keep playing the game. So that's all the code for number 1. So now we need to copy especially this one onto all the numbers, and then when we copy this onto number 2, that changes to 2. When we copy all of this onto 3, it changes to 3. So I'll do the first few and show you, and then you go ahead as well. So we're going to drag this over to 2, drag it over to 3. So you'll see this is now being brought over. Let's just get rid of the old code, and this gets changed to 2. Get rid of the old code. This gets changed to 3. So go ahead and do that. So what you should have is the code copy over onto each of these numbers, and each time you're on a new number, then this one changes. So if you go through and see, each one has been changed. So this is ensuring that the person chooses the correct number. So if they have clicked on the number 8 and it's the correct sprite, then the number changes by 1 for the point, and then the costume changes. So you should have all of this copied over for numbers 1 to 10. Then the next thing that gets copied over, if we just take away this one, the hide variable, and copy when a green flag is clicked, hide. So if you copy that one over as well. So same thing, drag it over to each of the sprites. And then put the hide variable back. This one here, the only thing that will change is going to the coordinates. And I find it easier if you don't actually copy the coordinates across. So if you copy this much over to each of the sprites, and we'll pick up the coordinates as we bring them through. And pop the coordinates back there for number 1. Okay, let's click on number 2 and make it show, and it should be size 50, and enter. Then place it where you would like. So what I do is I leave a space, because when we come down to the next row, the number is going to be in line with that space, but on the next row. Show number 3, size 50, enter. Number 4, show size 50, enter, and move it where you would like. Trying to keep them in line. And number 5, show size 50, enter, and place on the end of this row. Then we can go through, click on number 2, motion, and pick up the coordinates and place it on that code there. Number 3, a different set of coordinates, just in between go to front and show. And number 4, picking up the coordinates and place it before show. And number 5, picking up the coordinates. So that's the first row. Then 6 to 10 goes on the second row, so we show number 6. And size 50 and enter, and then this placed in between. Number 7, show size 50, enter, and it's pretty much where we want it. Number 8, show size 50, enter, and in the space. Number 9, show size 50, enter, and in the space on the second row. And last number, show size 50, enter, and it goes on the end. So we've got all our numbers in place. So let's click on Uno and show. What we've got to consider is the longest word, which is nueve, or one of those words. So we've got to think about the size. So let's have a look what 60 looks like and enter. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So now the code for this one, and remember this sprite contains all the numbers as different costumes. So the code for this one will be when the green flag is clicked, hide, and then when I receive, play the game. So let's get rid of the old code, events, when I receive, play the game. Go to front layer, so that's under looks, and go to the front layer. And we want to pick up those XY coordinates, so they're under motions. Go to XY. And then under looks, we want it to show. This is once the game has started. We want the first sprite to appear here. Then we're going to ask for the score to be set to 0. So set, and under the drop down match pairs score to 0. Then we're going to do a control for ending the game. So under control, there's one called wait until, so we need that one, wait until, and then you see we can put in another code in here. We want the variable will be match point score, but as you can see this doesn't fit in that part there, so we've got to have a different type of code first, which is under operators, and it's going to be the equals one. So it's got the shape there of fitting into wait until, and now we can fit match point score equals, and you can make this as high or as low as you want. I'm going to make it 30. So if they've got 30 points, then end the game. Then we're going to do a weight of 0.2. Then we're going to do say, and this is ending the game. So we're going to say well done. And then we're going to do another weight, and that can be 0.2. And then we just want to tell them the game's over, so we choose another say, and we're just going to say you have completed the game. And I might just change that to 3 seconds. Then we've got to put in some code to end the game. So we're going to do an event and broadcast and see if we've got, yes, we've got to do a new one, and we're going to say game over. And remember your camel formatting, game over. Then we've got to stop the codes. So under controls, we're going to say, first of all, pick up this one and say stop other scripts in the sprite. So stop changing the costumes, etc. And then stop all codes for the entire game, and that will end. So that's ending the game. So what happens during the game, we're going to grab another when I receive next costume. So when I receive, and create a new message, next costume. So under when I receive next costume, we're wanting the choosing of the costume to be random. We don't want them in order. So under operators, we need pick random, but this doesn't join with that, so we need something else before we organize this. We do want random 1 to 10, and we need the code in here that says set, and then an empty space, set something to. So if we look under variables and set, then a pick random can go on the end, and then under here, under the drop down, we need random, but as you can see we haven't made random yet. So if we go to make a variable and do random, and say OK. Then untick it, otherwise it appears on your stage. Untick it. And then under here, random appears here. So set random to pick any costume from 1 to 10. Then we want under looks, we would like switch costume to, but we want this to be random. So we should be able to, because it's a oval shape, we should be able to go back to variables and place random in there. See how it accepts it? So random. And that should be all the codes for the game. Let's change our score to just a plain readout, and I'm just going to pop it up in the very top. Now let's see how this game plays. Click on the green flag, and we could have some instructions here to explain the game. Then we click on play game, and I've noticed that this has got a delay, so I just keep clicking until it changes. There we go. So now the instructions would say choose the matching pair for the Spanish word. So if you click on So you've got to click on the correct number for the Spanish word. Now I've noticed when I click on this, it says sorry, it's incorrect. So looking at the code, this is changed on me, so it needs to be costume. So costume number, if the costume number of sprite 2 is 1, then it's correct. So let's have a look. Yes, correct. And then where's the score gone? We need a show the score. So let's just try that again. Yep, there's the score. So uno, correct. Score has changed. Now because it's random, your Spanish words can keep appearing because it's random selection. So if it does, just keep clicking on. Score changes. And let's see why this is not changing. Yeah, because it's just staying on uno. So when I receive next costume, so are we saying next costume? Broadcast switch costume. That's the problem. Next costume it should be. So let's have another go. So this is good troubleshooting for fixing the code. Correct. Good. So now it's changed. So just make sure your broadcast matches. So at the moment it's going in order. DOS, why not? So it looks like, yes, let's go check our codes. All of these should say costume. So good troubleshooting again. Costume for all of these. It's really important when you're working in code that you do know how to fix problems when they appear. Okay, And let's see if look this one. So yes, that's correct. And because it's been selected randomly, DOS has stayed. So click again. And next costume. So again, they all should say next costume. You probably picked this up quicker than what I spotted. Now with this game, it doesn't have to be the numbers in a different language. You can have this game as matching pairs like opposites, black, white, up, down, left, right, etc. Or you can set it up that you've got the name of a color here, and then you've got blocks of colors down here. It just depends what lesson you're trying to deliver and who your audience is. Alright, so let's test this code again. Correct. Correct. See how it's gone out of order? So it's not necessarily, it is doing random, which is really good. Now what happens if we choose an incorrect one? It'll say sorry, try again. So that's working as well. And let's go through until we reach our maximum, which is 30. And see it end the game. And it's chosen siete one more time. And well done. You have completed the game. And then the game stops. So thank you everyone. I hope you have a lot of fun designing a game either exactly like this or something similar, where you've got random costumes appearing here and you've got to match something down here. So leave it up to your imagination what you're going to set as your game, and thank you for watching.